bars, pacing, maybe blowing off a little bit of steam. You see, she just got some really bars, pacing, maybe blowing off a little bit of steam. You see, she just got some really bad news. The Trump administration.
The night was supposed to be ordinary. Just another high-profile gathering where champagne flowed and secrets stayed sealed behind velvet ropes. But when Ghislaine Maxwell entered that glittering New York penthouse, the air changed. The laughter softened. Conversations froze. Even the sound of crystal glasses clinking seemed to fade away, because everyone knew, when Maxwell spoke, something big was coming. And oh, it came. Behind those polished doors, Meghan Markle, the Duchess who had mastered poise and perfection, sat completely still, unaware that her world was about to shatter. Those who were there said the moment Maxwell started to speak, the temperature in the room dropped. Her words weren't just revelations, they were daggers wrapped in velvet. Each sentence sliced through Meghan's image, her alliances, and the empire she had so carefully built. By the end of that private conversation, Meghan's hands were trembling. Her eyes, usually full of that practiced royal calm, glistened with tears. Witnesses swear they heard her whisper to herself, "I didn't know. I really didn't know." She clutched her phone like it was a lifeline, pacing the suite in disbelief. That confident Duchess, who once stood toe-to-toe with the monarchy, suddenly looked small, human, heartbroken. But what did Maxwell say? That's the million-dollar question. Sources claim the revelations were deeply personal, shocking enough to make Meghan question everyone around her. Maxwell, with that cold composure she's known for, allegedly exposed secret alliances and hidden motives buried beneath Hollywood glamour and royal protocol. She revealed who had truly been pulling the strings in Meghan's world, and it wasn't Meghan herself. Inside that suite, hours felt like days. Meghan paced endlessly, her mind racing through every friendship, every favor, every smiling face she'd once trusted. Everything suddenly felt staged, manipulated. She realized she might have been part of a game she didn't even know existed, a game played by people far more dangerous than she'd imagined. The aftermath was instant. When Meghan finally stepped out of that room, her face was pale, her expression blank. She looked completely unmoored, one staffer recalled, like she was there physically, but her spirit had left the building. She tried to smile for the cameras, but it was hollow. Her lips moved, yet her eyes betrayed the storm raging inside. Within hours, whispers spread like wildfire. Someone had leaked that Maxwell had dropped a bombshell, and the world pounced on it. Twitter exploded with hashtag Meghan in tears and hashtag Maxwell expose trending across continents. News outlets scrambled to piece together what had happened behind those closed doors. Speculation ran wild. Was it political? Personal? Scandalous? Nobody knew the details, but everyone wanted blood. Inside Meghan's team, chaos reigned. Phones rang non-stop, lawyers were summoned, and PR strategists huddled in emergency meetings. One insider described it as DEFCON 1 mode. Every word, every email, every tweet was treated like it could start a war. Meghan's public appearances were quietly canceled. Schedules reshuffled. She vanished from the spotlight, but her absence only made the story grow louder. Friends close to her described sleepless nights and anxious pacing. Meghan called her confidants one by one, trying to make sense of it all. "She's scared," one whispered. "Not just for her image, for the people she trusted, for what this might unravel." Because this wasn't just another tabloid scandal, it was personal. It was intimate. Maxwell hadn't merely made claims, she'd exposed a truth that cut into Meghan's very identity, a truth that could fracture friendships, careers, maybe even her marriage. Behind palace walls, even royal aides were rattled. They knew how quickly one headline could snowball into international scandal. "We're not just worried about Meghan, one palace insider admitted. "We're worried about the ripple effect. The royals can't afford another media circus." Meanwhile, online detectives, those relentless social media sleuths, began digging through Meghan's old interviews, charity events, and photographs, desperate for clues. Every smile was dissected, every gesture was questioned. Suddenly, the Duchess of Sussex was no longer just a royal. She was a mystery waiting to be solved. Her PR team worked around the clock, drafting and discarding statement after statement. Every single word felt like a landmine, one source said. Say too much, and it fuels the story. Say too little, and silence becomes guilt. But while Meghan fought to contain the flames, Maxwell sat back, eerily calm. She wasn't rushing to the media or shouting her truth. She didn't need to. The damage was already done. The intrigue was more powerful than any press conference could ever be. By the next morning, the tabloids had their headlines ready. Meghan Markle left in tears after Maxwell's shocking revelation. The image of a tear-streaked duchess pacing her penthouse went viral. The public was hooked. Some pitied her. Others accused her of playing the victim. The world divided itself into believers and skeptics, and every opinion was broadcast, retweeted, and argued over millions of times. Inside her suite, Meghan sat alone, scrolling through article after article. Her face was a portrait of exhaustion, eyes swollen from crying, her jaw set in quiet determination. "This isn't just gossip anymore," she told one close friend. "They're trying to break me." Her legal team sprang into action. Calls with attorneys stretched past midnight. Strategies were drawn to prevent defamation, to protect what remained of her public image. Her PR advisors debated whether to respond directly or let the story burn out on its own. But nothing seemed safe. The wrong word could spark another explosion. Palace officials, though publicly silent, were quietly on high alert. They monitored every social media spike, every new article, every whisper that could threaten the institution. "This isn't about Meghan alone," one royal source said. "It's about the monarchy's image, and we're watching very closely." The following days blurred together. Meghan's home became a war room filled with strategists, lawyers, and emotional support staff. Every morning began with crisis meetings. Every evening ended with exhausted silence. Her friends described a woman holding on by sheer willpower, vulnerable yet determined. "She's not broken," one confidant said firmly. "She's fighting back in her own way. But this time, it's not about headlines. It's about survival." Outside, the media storm only grew. Talk shows speculated wildly about what Maxwell might have said. Some hinted at financial secrets. Others whispered about manipulated friendships. The truth remained hidden, and that secrecy made it even more intoxicating. By midweek, Meghan's name dominated every feed. Analysts debated whether this could affect her Netflix contracts or speaking deals. PR experts called it one of the biggest crises in celebrity history. Even Buckingham Palace's press office was forced to monitor developments, though they publicly refused to comment. In private, Meghan's emotional state began to unravel. Friends described her as restless, unable to sleep, constantly rereading old messages and emails, looking for betrayals she might have missed. She second-guessed everything, every favor, every introduction, every alliance that once felt genuine. "She's realizing the price of fame," one insider sighed, "and it's breaking her heart." Still, she refused to disappear completely. In brief moments of clarity, Meghan insisted on staying involved in every decision, every word released to the press, every public move. "I need to control something," she reportedly told her team. I can't just sit here and let them define me. But control was slipping. Each time her team released a carefully crafted statement, new rumors sprouted. Each denial was twisted into a confirmation. Every silence, every pause, every no comment only deepened the mystery. And then, Maxwell spoke again. Not to cameras, not to reporters, but in whispers, through her network of high society contacts. Little details, small confirmations, just enough to keep the fire burning. She didn't have to shout. She knew how gossip worked. The world's fascination with Meghan would do all the shouting for her. For Meghan, it felt like a siege. Every text message, every phone call, every new article carried the weight of suspicion. She began holding meetings late into the night, her team debating strategy until dawn. Should they sue? Should they confront Maxwell directly? Or should they wait and let the story choke on its own excess? No answer felt safe. Even her closest allies grew nervous. Hollywood friends stopped taking calls. Invitations dried up. Brands hesitated. The aura of scandal was poison, and Meghan could feel the isolation closing in. Meanwhile, Buckingham Palace's silence grew louder. No defense, no sympathy, just a cold, calculated stillness. The kind that said, "You're on your own now." By the end of the week, Meghan's exhaustion was visible. Cameras caught her leaving her residence, eyes shielded behind dark glasses, face tight with fatigue. The tabloids pounced again, spinning her quiet composure as arrogance, her silence as guilt. But those close to her saw something different. "She's tired," one said softly, "but she's not done. She knows the story isn't going away. She's planning her next move, carefully." Behind closed doors, the strategy evolved. Her lawyers worked to trace leaks. Her PR team planned selective public appearances, controlled, empathetic, perfectly lit, designed to remind the world who Meghan really was. Yet even those moves felt dangerous. "Every step she takes is a headline," one advisor groaned. "There's no winning here, only surviving." Maxwell, meanwhile, remained an invisible force, calm, strategic, untouchable. Her silence screamed louder than any interview could. She didn't deny, didn't clarify, didn't flinch. She simply waited. And Meghan? She waited too, but her waiting was different. It was restless, emotional, desperate for the storm to pass, yet terrified of what calm might bring. By the start of the second week, the world had turned her pain into entertainment. Memes, reaction videos, endless commentary. The Duchess's heartbreak was now global content. Inside her penthouse, though, it was deadly quiet. The phones had stopped ringing as often. Her circle had shrunk. Even the city noise outside felt distant. Meghan sat by the window, staring at her reflection in the glass, the face the world thought it knew. For years, she'd built her image carefully, poised, articulate, resilient. But now, all of it was under question. One woman's words had managed to undo a reputation built over a decade. And yet, beneath the tears and the silence, something hardened. She wasn't going to let this define her. "She'll rise from this," a friend promised. But first, she has to survive it. Days turned into nights, and the chaos refused to quiet down. Meghan's world felt smaller, tighter, like every breath she took was being watched, analyzed, and turned into gossip fodder. The Maxwell bombshell had exploded far beyond what anyone imagined. Even her silence had become a headline. "She's hiding something," they said. "She's guilty." Others whispered, she's broken. Inside those guarded walls, Meghan sat surrounded by silence that felt heavier than any rumor. Her phone kept buzzing with messages from her team, but she didn't answer. She stared blankly at the headlines flashing across the screen, each one twisting her pain into spectacle. There was anger in her chest, fear in her stomach, but above all, sadness. She had fought too hard, believed too deeply in her version of truth, and now it all seemed to crumble under whispers she couldn't control. Her hands trembled as she whispered, "I never meant for it to be like this." By now, Maxwell didn't need to speak another word. The world was doing her work for her. Speculations became stories. Stories became facts. And Meghan's name was the currency that kept selling. But one morning, something shifted. Meghan stood before the mirror, her eyes swollen but steady. "Enough," she whispered. "They've taken enough." She called her team, straightened her shoulders, and began planning her first appearance. Not for damage control, but for dignity. Because behind the tears and chaos, the Duchess was still standing. Bruised, yes, but not broken. The world might keep whispering, the headlines might twist, Maxwell's shadow might linger, but Meghan had made her choice. She would face the storm, head high, eyes dry, heart guarded. Because sometimes silence isn't surrender, it's strength. And this time, Meghan Markle wasn't running. She was rising. She was rising. She was rising.